Greetings, folks. It's your boy Mark Gray. That's Mark with a K, Gray with an A. And this is the gray area. Somewhere between black and white, there is that shade of gray. And we must talk my favorite pastime. That's HBCU or black college sports. And despite the corona pandemic, the nation's premier Division II conference, and certainly the most elite in Division II, the CIAA, is beginning to tip off the march to Baltimore with a virtual vibe. That's right, in keeping with the newfound tradition of day parties featuring hot DJs via social media. The conference is offering up a June 30th 4 DJ party that figures to rock like nowhere else. And speaking of rocking like nowhere else, we're pleased, honored, and privileged to be joined by the commissioner of the conference via Zoom, one Jacqie McWilliams. Jacqie, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. You know, how things going down your way?
Mark, they're about the same going down your way. We are sheltered still, and we are protesting, and we are making noise, and we are working and grinding and trying to figure out how to get these student athletes back in school and then on the field. So the work never ends.
You know, speaking of that, even before we get to the virtual tour, talk about how the face of college sports are going to look starting this fall. Are we in the midst of not only a new world order, but a new world of how things are going to be done?
Yeah, I think it's, Mark, honestly, I think it's going to look different everywhere. I mean, we just got a peak in North Carolina and South Carolina again. We're not fully open, but, you know, I ran out today for a little bit and people are moving around like nothing's happening. And I think realistically, I mean, we have to continue to know that COVID-19 still exists. We don't have anything to cure it right now. And so, you know, we're waiting to see what our institutions do across 5 states and whether. So I think all conferences and in college athletics and even professional, we're trying to figure out how to do this. It will be an expense. You know, so we're trying to figure out even the cost associated to sustaining, you know, our athletes just for practice day, right? We haven't talked about travel yet. And so there's a lot of work that's being done from the NCAA all the way down to Division III, all the way down to conference offices, and then state, you know, state mandates, you name it. So there's a lot of discussion. It's going to look different. It's not going to feel the same. I don't think some of us will have fans and some of us will.
And what are sports without fans? It's just like, you know, it just seems so strange to even come to a concept like that because, you know, in our game at our houses, that the fans and the bands are as much a part of the experience as what goes on the field or the court. So that would definitely be strange, wouldn't it?
Yes. I mean, to think about not having sports and to work in college sports sounds strange to me. I can't get my head quite around even canceling, you know, the spring semester. That was tough for us. I mean, it was almost like a mourning in some way. You know, you feel for these student athletes. Now we're watching students going through this whole graduation period and what that feels like. So to imagine not having sports, it just doesn't seem right. So you got to believe that we're all trying our best to make it happen, but realistically, we have to figure out how to sustain it in a world that we have no control of right now.
Which brings an interesting question because your conference, despite the football success, which can't be underscored, I mean, we're talking about a half decade or so away from playing for a national championship. You got a team like Bowie's been to 3 straight NCAA playoffs. But I was struck by something that Herman Edwards said on ESPN when he was like, you know, you can't social distance football. And football is the breadwinner for a lot of athletic programs. If you have to play football without fans, can you realistically do it?
Well, I think you can. I mean, I think everyone, so when you say how's it going to look different across the bigger institutions across America that have more resources, Power 5 to mid-level to Division II, Division III. I think you have to make it realistic based on what your resources can provide and sustain to keep even fans safe. I think right now we're so focused on just getting our students in schools and the HBCU platform, and then figure out how do we get them out on the field. And football will be a beast. It will be tough. From the medical staff to officials to the number of athletes to travel, all of that. I mean, I think is something that we're talking about, but football will be tough, and not to have fans, not to have our bands, not to have our cheer. I mean, that doesn't even sound right as well. But, media with our sports network for the CIAA allows us to be creative in a space to still show the game. It might be different for the athletes, though.
Jacqie, let's talk about the virtual vibe, because it's a welcome respite from all the, concerns that we're all going to have to deal with moving forward. What was the concept behind the day party in cyberspace at this time? Are you trying to help the HBCU fan base escape from what's going on, or was this just something organic to sort of tip off the march to Baltimore as you get ready to come to Charm City for the CIAA tournament for the next 3 years?
Yeah, Mark, I think it's all of it. I've always in my head at some point thought, like, how do we keep our fans, our alumni, the HBCU community engaged and connected? What better way to do it now when we're all shut in and closed in, some of us, but what a way to really we need something to give us life right now, right? I feel like my air has been taken out of me a couple of times. Every time I get up, I feel like I get knocked out again. And the one thing that we've always been good at as a community and in the CIAA, but period, is food, dancing, and basketball and sports, period. We know we're good at that. And for us, to dance and to find a place where we can just really come together and share in the experience of what it means. Even if you're not in an HBCU, you get to see the vibe of who we are culturally and what we can do to shift people's heart and souls in the moment.
Jacqie, about the day party, I mean, it became synonymous when the tournament was in Charlotte. How many people were actually coming to Charlotte for the day parties and weren't coming for the game. You think you may have stumbled onto something here? Maybe they get the day parties out of their system and come in for some basketball in Baltimore for a change?
Yeah, we saw a shift at this year's tournament, which was really nice. I mean, it was packed. I think people get it. I think there's enough that they can see and feel inside the venue. And I think we did a really good job in marketing that. The fun thing about our virtual party, which is on the 20th, it's right after June 19th, which is great.
Right.
But we get to celebrate the history, and we're bringing in DJs that have been part of our day parties, right? So they get to share in the experience, like officially in our experience. Some of them have been a part of our experience at other events, that we have hosted. So I'm just excited that we're using ours. We're using people who already have an affinity to this conference. Day parties in the CIAA have existed way before Charlotte. I mean, there's a group of women who have been doing day parties way before we even knew day parties existed. It's just grown. For us, it's just capturing the essence and bringing those individuals into the family to understand the foundation of CIAA and HBCUs and why it's important for them to make the investment back into our communities if they want to have day parties, particularly with our name, Mark.
Yeah, how about that? So with that being said, give me a percentage total here. And I know it's probably going to change like, the presidential election polls, but on 100% scale, where are we right now? How confident are you that everything will be in place for the tournament to actually come off in Baltimore, despite we don't know when or if the pandemic is going to come back?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. We have a call coming up with our board. We've met with them a couple of weeks ago in mid-May. We agreed that we would not make emotional reactive decisions based on what everybody else is doing. We agreed that we would make the best decision on base of what's important for the CIAA. We understand the NCAA and everybody around us is making provisions to play. But whatever we decide to do, whether we go full blown with the tournament, whether we scale it down, or whether we end up not having it because it's nothing that we can control, But our goal is to have a tournament. What it looks like, we have no idea right now. I think we have some ideas. I think we're working with Baltimore. Baltimore has been great. I mean, they have really opened up the mind of this, even this virtual party. They've been on it. They're hosting it for us. They know how it's important to get people to really feel about this vibe on going to the Charm City and what we're going to do together, regardless of what it looks like. And so I'm excited about whatever that opportunity is. We don't have a decision today. We may have one next week. I don't even know, but I don't want us to make a decision that we'll have to turn back around and say, we shouldn't have done that. Whatever we decide to do, I know that our fans, our alumni, and mostly our student athletes will be okay, because we're not going in this making a decision just off of revenue. We're going in it for the safety and the benefit of the historical perspective of our conference and what it means for all of our HBCs to thrive.
It seems like the HBCU visibility or cachet has gone up a notch and was already going up a notch as it relates to student athletes, high profile athletes. When you can get Ken Griffey Jr.'s kid to play football, that is huge. You got Bronny James getting a virtual scholarship offer from North Carolina Central. Heck, your alma mater got Monet Davis to play softball for them at Hampton University. It seems like HBCUs, this newfound appreciation for Black lines. From your perspective, are we going through an HBCU renaissance, not only just athletically, but socially right now, where the relevance plus the circumstances have come together to form a new coalition, if you will?
Mark, I hope so. I really hope so. In a sense where we were so important 150 years ago for the same reason, that we still should be that important for the same reason, right? We should be thinking about how we support our HBCUs. And I said a couple of weeks ago, whether you went to an HBCU or not, most of us have grown up in a community or know somebody who did. And if an HBCU didn't exist, a lot of us wouldn't have had the opportunity. I don't care how much it costs or how much money you get. Somehow we all make it if we go to an HBCU. And I just feel like there's truly an opportunity for us to look at our schools differently as a part of the heart and soul of the world and nation. Some of the best speakers and leaders right now have gone to HBCUs, and we're seeing them, whether it's CNN or CIAA, you name it, our presidents, our leaders. I mean, we're producing awesome, not just product, but just awesome, amazing people. And I think all students should want to be a part of that experience. The excellence of education, the excellence of cultural relevance. And nobody should ever ask the question, are HBCU relevant? Yes, they are. They were important then, and they'll always be important. This is a place where, protesting, we were taught. I was taught to have a voice and taught to be Black and beautiful and taught to be a leader. I mean, this is the place that we do it. And our students, I was on the MEAC call last night, and Mark, I was so proud to be a part, even though it's CIAA, I'm proud to be a part of a community that cares about students, Black or white, that come to our schools and that care about educating us in a way that we're able to talk about these issues, because these aren't difficult conversations for us as may be for others. These are easy conversations. Just open up the door and help us have the conversation so we can help make the change, because HBCUs make us better.
And our role is like, we're sort of the OGs right now, which trips me out every day, how, we're arming the next generation to come along. I mean, I think you and our generation was kind of caught up in the exhale. It was like our parents had lived it. We were two generations from Jim Crow, 3-4 generations from slavery. We had 50 years to exhale, and now we got a generation that's armed, they're arrogant, and they're defiant in a proper way. So put your coaching hat on, all right? Because I think this is where HBCU athletics and administrators play a big role. How do we coach them up, get them focused on how to take the move forward from a hashtag to a really social, relevant decision-making force for society?
Yeah, I think, as coaches, we're always coaching off the court and on the court. I'm a coach. I have former employees that call me a coach, right? I mean, we always have the responsibility to lead young people, the people that we're leading, to think bigger, to think broader, to think strategic, to take advantage of every situation possible to advance the movement. And we have the opportunity to advance the movement. We should be having conversations with our students about voting. I mean, it's so important that our college students are voting. You're an athlete, you have a platform, you have a story. You can lead in just getting your friends to think about voting and making sure that they are socially responsible. How we talk and how we communicate with one another better and support each other better. Your teammate comes from this area, you come from this area. And just because we're Black doesn't mean that we're the same. But if we demonstrate how to love one another, you should be teaching love, to be kind. That's what we should be teaching across America. And as a coach or an athlete, I would want to tell my student athletes, be kind. Yes, this world is what it is, but yes, stand up, but vote, use your voice, make a difference. You can make impact. You can be a force on the court and you can be a force off the court. You can run for office. You can be the president of the United States. You can be the commissioner.
And amazingly enough, and people of brown skin have seen a brown skin president right now, so it's no longer
Absolutely.
beyond.
They still calling him the president.
How about that? Yeah, that's what you have to admire about them. Quickly before I let you go, I did want to reiterate on June 30th, the CIAA Virtual Vibe, and I'm struck. I'm sorry, on 20th. The 20th of June, you've got the Virtual Vibe. I'm impressed that, Quicksilver's my guy. We used to work together at Radio 1. And DJ Envy from the Breakfast Club. You want to talk about new school political power brokers in the game. The Breakfast Club is doing it big. I mean, they did more for Joe Biden's campaign than his campaign manager in quite some time, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I just think, you want to have people a part of your community that's going to not be afraid to share their voice and do it in a way to promote not just themselves, and for us to give them that exposure beyond the exposure that you have, and to work together to uplift our community through music and song. I always talk about being kind, keep loving, be intentional, get rid of the negative, and find your dance and your song. So on June 20th, we're gonna find our dance and our song, and we're gonna celebrate the history of our HBCUs and our CIAA schools and use our tools. We're taking advantage of this opportunity, as we do all the time. I think CIAA is creative in what we do, and I'm really proud of my team for creating this platform for us to take a breath and celebrate us.
And it couldn't have come at a better time. That's why we got to make sure that we get the word out there right now about this vibe, the coming together, the HBCU thing. We got to support our HBCUs. And you've been a student athlete at the HBCU. You've been an athletic administrator at HBCU. Been an athletic administrator at the NCAA, and now you've come back home. So you got a variety of different perspectives. Yeah. So we're beginning to see a lot of defections, if you will, and conference realignments. Our beloved MEAC loses North Carolina A&T and Florida A&M. I felt good about A&T because I thought it was a challenge that made sense because of the travel. FAMU, bit of a gut punch. I'm a little bit sore about that, but is that the way we're going to have to go these days? And, what does that mean for the MEAC?
Yeah, I Dr. Thomas is a mentor. He was my athletic director. I admire his strength in holding on to what he has and to making it thrive based on decisions that conferences make across the country. He's steady. He's got enough schools to continue to play. I think what's hard for me is that the foundation of our conferences was really to give Black athletes an opportunity to play. And our communities and our HBCUs just broadens the spirit of who we are. I still struggle, and again, it's part of accepting and loving outside of your HBCU community, and be okay with going to a game that doesn't look like us. And that's my own stereotypes and biases I have to work on my own, because I love to see the rivalry between Norfolk State and Hampton, or Virginia State and, you know, A&T, or Central and Shaw. It doesn't matter. I love that community. And so once you get outside of that, you're just like, well, what does that really feel like for our students now going to, and again, they get to play and they get to do all those things, but there's just something about the CIAA, the MEAC, the SWAC, the SIAC, that we give our student athletes in a community that no other conference does. The bands are important to us, right? The social network is important to us. And
cheerleaders.
Exactly. Make how we need to, but I just hope that our HBCUs understand the value of why our conferences are important, and the reason why we created our conferences in the first place, to allow access and opportunity.
Well, on June 20th, I'll buy you a virtual drink, and we can have a virtual
Mark.
toast. Socially responsible, distancing. Of course. All right. And even if you're not 21, you know, freeze the keys and give the car keys to somebody who's responsible in your virtual space.
Exactly, because it's going to be live. We're going to have a good time. Come
on, Jacqie. I know how you roll. Anyway, that is Jacqie McWilliams, the incomparable commissioner of the CIAA. Don't forget, it is June 20th. It is the CIAA Virtual Vibe. We're going to get it in cyberspace. We got 4 DJs all afternoon. There is no reason for you not to be there. So I can't look forward to, you know, cutting the rug with you, at least in the Zoom space, a little bit later on this month, okay?
Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much for just caring about us and always covering and asking the great questions. And so I look forward to everybody participating on that day.
Jacqie McWilliams, thank you much for joining us and, you know, keeping us afloat, because, you know, you're one of the people we got to be paddling for so we can win at this thing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care of yourself. That's going to close the book on this edition of The Great Area, folks. Don't forget, you can find me, Mark Gray. That's Mark with a K, Gray with an A, in cyberspace all over the place at The Sports Groove. That is Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And as always, let me remind you, give somebody you love a hug tonight. You may not get a chance to do it tomorrow. Till next time, I'm Mark Gray. Peace.